Reading for pleasure falls by 40% in the U.S. This is what I want to talk about today because this hits our people very hard. When it comes to leisure, our people are not reading and using their time wisely, and when it comes to getting closer with Yahweh Bashim Yoshai. It's a damn shame, but it is what it is. But when you go into precepts like Hosea 4 and 6, it says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. It makes sense. The reason why you're destroyed for a lack of knowledge is because you're not reading the scriptures. You're not taking the time to learn about Yahweh Bashim Yoshai. You're not taking the time to learn about yourself. And you're definitely not taking the time to learn about the law, statutes, and commandments. And that's why you're destroyed, man. You're destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And our people are just our people will discontinue from our heritage as well. We have discontinued for so long. We've been in this place for so goddamn long. We've become very, very low. It makes sense. Now, I just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh Bahashem Yoshai Bahashem Rakah HaKodash. This is Brother Gabar Allah, a son of Zion, signing back in. Lord willing, this will be edifying and thought-provoking in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yoshai. Also, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Muslim GMS that have taught me this truth. To you I say shalom, and shalom unto the hopeful elect. So this is very significant here. It's very serious. Reading for pleasure falls by 40% in the U.S. Decline over 2 decades, deeply concerning, say researchers, a study into daily habits of Americans. Yeah. So by 40%, that's a lot, man. Over the past, 20 years? That's a lot. So this hits all Americans, but who's affected the most? You so-called blacks, so-called Latinos, and Native Americans, and you confusion of face. You Israelites, you're affected the most. And it actually goes into that. But I want to start off with this. Revelation chapter 1 verse 3. Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. So yeah, you get a blessing when you read, when you hear the word, and also when you keep the things that are written in the word. Which makes sense. Faith without works is dead. Right? So you have to preach what you teach. Right? You have to preach what you teach as well. So yeah, man, you have to demonstrate your faith, and that comes through action, man. You got to show your actions, show that you really believe in the Lord. So you get a blessing when you read, man. So it's important to read. You have to read the scriptures, man. Right? You have to read the scriptures. That's how you get a blessing. And that's why you tribes, you're not blessed. That's why when you go into precepts like Hosea 4 and 6, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. You know why you're destroyed? You know why you're destroyed? Because you're not reading about the Lord and yourselves and about keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, which is found in the scriptures. That's why you're destroyed, man. Right? So right now, yeah, it says in Revelation 1 and 3, blessed is he that readeth. But right now you're cursed because you're not reading. That's why you're cursed, man. And you know why you're affected the most? Because, it was prophesied that you will discontinue from your heritage. And your heritage is found in the Bible. Nowhere else it's found in the Bible. Because, you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, you're caught up into all types of shit. Especially so-called blacks, man. You have something called Black History Month, but that's not really going into your real history. Some of the things that you bring out is good to know, right? But what's your true history? Your true history is that you originated in the East, man. You came out of Israel. That's your home. And you serve the God of all gods. And really, you're a prince of the power, Yasha Allah. And where is that all found? That's all found in the book. But you ain't reading that. You ain't reading that on your leisure time or your spare time. In fact, when you get free time, you engage in feeding the flesh. And that destroys you even more, man. And that's a damn shame. Because you're a prince of the power. You're a royal people, man. Royal people are supposed to be educated. That's a damn shame. That's a damn shame. So anyways, reading for pleasure falls by 40% in the U.S. Reading for pleasure in the U.S. has declined by more than 40% over the past 20 years, according to analysis of the daily lives of Americans, supporting several smaller studies that suggest fewer people are using their leisure time to read. That's not good, man. It's not good. Now, since it's going into leisure time, I want to get this This is Sirach chapter 38, verse 24. The wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that hath little business shall become wise. How can he get wisdom that holdeth the plough, and that glorieth in the gold, that driveth oxen, and is occupied in their labors, and whose talk is of bullocks? And that's Jake, man. I gotta get this money, man. I gotta get this money, man. On their spare time, they're always thinking about making some money, instead of just sitting back and taking the time to learn about their power and who they are. Right? So you become a lot more wise and a lot more successful if you just took some time to serve the Lord. Yeah, man, that's all you got to do, especially during the time of your leisure, right? So yeah, man, and American culture promotes this, what's being stated here in verse 25, because the work culture here is very toxic. You work till you die, and when you get off work, you don't really want to engage in anything that is, let's just say, making you think or work up a mental sweat. So what do? You just engage in bread and circus, and the elites, they push bread and circus out here. You have all these different professional sports teams. You got NFL. Like every season, there's always a new sport that comes in. Basketball season finished, and then you have baseball season, you got soccer season, then you got football season. All these different sports to keep you busy. That's bread and circus. Right? They push that purposely to make sure you don't learn anything about the Lord, you don't learn about yourselves, and you definitely don't learn about what's going on in the world. It's to dumb you down and to keep you stupid. That's all set up by design, man. Hey, didn't John D. Rockefeller talk about that? I have it pulled up here. He actually quoted that. He said, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. And that's a majority of you people out here. Work. But you don't think. You don't take the time to think, and you definitely don't take the time to think about Yahweh Bashem Yoshai. And that's why you are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And this is all prophecy, man. So these are your elites that are in charge. And they're pushing folly is set in great dignity. You see that? I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. Bruh. So that leads me to this precept. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 6. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in a low place. Which, simply means, the people that are in authority, they're actually stupid. They're not really smart or intelligent. They're really stupid. And that same vibe trickles on down to the people. Because the ruler is as the people, right? And the people are like the ruler. That's in the Sirach, the 10th chapter. It goes into that. But it also shows you that folly is at an all-time high. People pride themselves now in being stupid. And that was all set up by the elite banking families. They push that. They push bread and circus. They push all that garbage that you see on social media. All these influencers, OnlyFans, TikTok. Man, they're behind all of that. Dumbing you down. Giving you a public fool system. You don't learn anything in school. They set up that curriculum. They set that shit up. And that's to keep you stupid. So I'm reading it, man. This is what the guy said. I'm going to read it again. This is John D. Rockefeller. I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. And that's what you're caught up in. Aren't we reading that? How can he get wisdom that holdeth the plough, and that glorieth in the gold, that driveth oxen, and is occupied in their labors, and whose talk is of bullocks? And they want you to be workers, man. Work. That's why when you're burnt out after work, you come home, you want to just crack open a beer. You just want to watch a movie. You don't want to do anything constructive. You don't want to work up a mental sweat. But you got to fight that, man. On your leisure time, you're supposed to be studying about Yahweh Bashem Yoshai and reading the Bible, man. I can't stress that enough. And another thing, when you come into this truth, you're going to be reading a lot more than you did while you were in the world. Because in the world, man, for me personally, I would read, but I would only read for work or school. Other than that, like if it's my leisure time, I'm not really reading a lot. I wasn't reading a lot back then. But when I came into this truth, that changed, man. Because in order for you to go into secular history, to go into these different languages, to learn about who you are, about your power, you're going to have to read a lot of books, man. You're going to have to go into a lot of secular history, and you're going to have to go into a lot of these books in the world too to figure things out. Because there's a lot of books out there. Like I have a lot of books pulled up right over there that go into the elites, which is found in Psalm 64. To get a better understanding of Psalm 64, you would actually have to read books in the world. Go into books that are written by government liaisons, these investigative journalists. You have to read a lot, man. So when you come into this truth, you're going to read the Lord. I believe it says, seek the Lord 10 times more. See if I can find that. Yeah, that's Baruch 4 and 28. See if I can pull that up here. This is Baruch 4 and 28. This is I'm going to start at verse 27. Baruch chapter 4 verse 27. Be of good comfort, O my children, and cry unto the Most High, for ye shall be remembered of him that brought these things upon you. For as it was in your mind to go astray from the Lord, so being returned, seek him 10 times more. You see that? Yeah, that's true. That means you're going to be reading, and you're definitely going to be reading on your leisure time. You're going to be studying to show thyself approved on your leisure time. So yeah, when you come into this truth, you got to seek the Lord even more. 10 times more. So yeah, you are going to be reading a lot more than you did while you were in the world. So if you're a brother that doesn't like to read, are you really about this thing? You know, you just going on ChatGPT and letting ChatGPT do things for you. And don't get me wrong, ChatGPT is a very good tool. It's a very good tool, but don't rely on that thing. Because remember, ChatGPT is set up to not give you certain answers. If you type certain answers, certain things into ChatGPT, certain questions, it won't give you an answer, man. Even certain things about the scriptures. Right? So ChatGPT is a good tool, but don't rely on it too much to do the thinking for you, the reading and the writing for you. You got to filter that even through the scriptures. ChatGPT is a damn demon too. It's very deceptive. But anyways, yeah, you get my point here. So I just want to read a little bit of the article. So it says, this is not just a small dip. It's a sustained decline of about 3% per year, said Jill Sunk at the University of Florida. It's significant and deeply concerning. The results are published in iScience. The study included any kind of reading done for enjoyment or purposes other than work or school, including ebooks, on screen, or listening to audiobooks, as well as traditional books, newspapers, and magazines in print. Although electronic media have added many new ways to read, the researchers express confidence in their methodology. Now I'm going to just jump down here. It says, the American Time Use Survey shows how people spent every minute of the past 24 hours, enabling researchers to look at the broadest definition of reading for pleasure, said Fancourt. This included people reading news online, for example, but not scrolling through social media. The decline was not spread evenly through the U.S. population. Reading fell more steeply than average among Black Americans, people on lower incomes, and those in rural areas. So this represents you tribes, man. Lower incomes means low income people. Yeah, Black Americans especially, which that represents Judah, which the curses are going to fall on you a little bit more heavily than the other tribes, because the scripture says the scepter shall not depart. You are the leaders of the nation of Israel, so you're gonna get a very bitter burden, when it comes to you going through the curses. Right? So yeah, you so-called blacks, man, you don't like to read, man. You put something in a book. I believe there's a saying: if you don't want the black man to progress, put it in a book or something like that. But it's true, man. Jake don't like to read, man. Especially on their leisure time. Jake just likes to engage in folly and recklessness. Hey, and you can thank black culture for that. Black culture. Hey, if you're involved in black culture, if you're an FBA, if you're somebody that is woke, hey man, you're still a part of the congregation of the dead. You don't know shit. You still lack understanding. being woke doesn't mean you know anything. You know, you gotta know the scriptures. You gotta know the Lord. You gotta know prophecy. You get this, man. This is Proverbs chapter 21, verse 16. The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. That's right. So a lot of our people are dead men walking, you know, spiritually that is. Bunch of walking corpses. And they have no understanding. The understanding comes out of the scriptures. Or the knowledge, man. Anyways, man. Let's go back. So we read that here. While people with higher education levels and women are still more likely to read, even among these groups, we're seeing shifts, said Jessica Bone, another UCL co-author. For those who already do read, the time spent reading has increased slightly, she said, whereas in the wider group, many have stopped reading altogether. Time spent reading with children did not change significantly over the 2 decades, but was surprisingly low. The study found although 21% of participants had a child under the age of 9 with them during the diary day, only 2% sent recorded a reading with a child. This is concerning, given that regular reading during childhood is a strong determinant of reading ability and engagement later in life. The researchers said the low rates of reading with children may thus contribute to future declines in reading among adults. See that? Yeah, so you know you got even adults, they're not reading to their kids as much as they used to. And it's important that you read to your kids. You got to be reading them the scriptures. You know, you got to teach them the law, statutes, and commandments. All right, so that's all I want from that article. I'm just going to go into the scriptures now. So this is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 1. It says, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and I will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. So yeah, and that's what the prophets did. You know, the prophets, they read and they wrote. You know, they read and write. Right? They read and they write what they saw, and they put it upon tables, which means they wrote it in a scroll or the book. And that's so other Israelites can read it, and they can run with it. That's why it says, blessed is he that readeth. So it's important that you do read. If you don't read, you won't run, right? So it's important to read. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come and will not tarry. That's right. So you have to read, man. It's important for you to read. If you want to understand the vision, if you want to understand what time you're in, you're going to have to read the scriptures. Nobody's going to do it for you. Okay, so this is 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15. Study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. That's right. So you have to study to show thyself approved unto the Most High. If you want to be approved unto Yahweh Bashem Shai, you're going to have to study during your leisure time. Right? You're going to have to do that. Now it says rightly dividing. Let's look up that word. Dividing. In the Greek, orthomeo, and it says to cut straight ways, to proceed on straight paths. That's right. Hold a straight course, to do and right, to make straight and smooth, to handle aright, to teach the truth directly and correctly. And you, in order for you to do that, you gotta read, man. And it says here to make a straight cut, figuratively to dissect. Yeah. So if you want to cut the scriptures, which that really falls into the category about line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, which I'm going to pull that up. That's how you cut the scriptures. Because you can't just read this book like a novel. This book is like a puzzle. And you got to put 2 and 2 together. And in order for you to do that, you got to read properly. You got to go into the laws, statutes, and commandments. You got to go into the history. You got to go into different languages. Yeah, that's how you teach the truth directly and correctly. You know, that's why it says here, rightly dividing. So that's very important, man. So yes, you got to study to show thyself approved. All right. Now, let me get this one here. Let me get this one. Isaiah chapter 28, Verse 9, whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. That's right. So you got to, if you want to increase in understanding, in wisdom, in knowledge, you have to be weaned from the milk. You gotta understand the basics, because that's what the milk is. Hebrew Israelite 101, the basics. So knowing the alphabet, your ABs and your ABCs, your 1, 2, 3s, knowing basic precepts like Job 9:24, earth is given into the hand of the wicked. You gotta understand how the Lord is, how he looks. Like you should know how to break those things down. You should know the appearance of our Lord, that he was a so-called black man. You gotta know how to go into the scriptures and prove all those things. That's the milk. That's what I'm talking about. So you gotta have a thorough understanding of the milk in order for you to grow and to progress in this truth, so you can understand the mysteries, the deeper things. Verse 10. So it says, for precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. So yeah, you gotta bounce around in the book. You gotta get that precept to back up that other precept or scripture. You gotta go in that line, or you gotta go upon that line. That means going into the interlinear, looking up words too, here a little and there a little. That's how you read the Bible. That's how you read the Bible, and that's how you teach, bring out information in the Bible. You can't read this book like a novel. So you gotta really know what you're talking about, man. And in order for you to do that, you have to study on your leisure time. So it's very important. This is Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 16. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, stand ye in the ways, and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. That's right. So you got to seek out the old paths. You seek out the old way of doing things. You got to look things up. You gotta kind of picture how it was in the ancient world when you read the scriptures too. You got to be very creative when you're in the truth. You got to picture things out. You got to go into icons, historical books, like I said, secular history. So, you got to picture yourself being there in the ancient world in ancient garments while serving the Lord. That's a part of seeking out the old paths too. Anyways, let me get this one. This is Romans chapter 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning. So if it was written, that means you gotta read it. Right? That we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope. It's very important that you read, man. It builds up your faith, man. That's why it says comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Faith without works is dead. Part of you showing your faith, obviously, is through your works. But if you're showing your works, that means you're going to read the scriptures and do what's written. Alright, so let's get this one. This is Sirach chapter 17, verse alright, you know what? I'm going to start at verse 1. The Lord created man of the earth and turned him into it again. He gave them few days and a short time, and power also over the things therein. He endued them with strength by themselves, and made them according to his image, and put the fear of man upon all flesh, and gave them dominion over beasts and fowls. They received the use of the 5 operations of Yahweh, Bashim Yavshai, and in the 6th place he imparted them understanding, and in the 7th speech, an interpreter of the cogitations thereof. Counsel and a tongue and eyes, ears and a heart gave he them to understand. Withal he filled them with the knowledge of understanding, and showed them good and evil. You see, so yeah, the Lord, he taught us how to read and write. He taught us how to speak, an interpreter of the cogitations thereof. Right? So you got to write things down. You got to read. You got to communicate. When you read and when you communicate with others, you're able to pass information on more quickly. So it's very important. That's why we're supposed to sharpen each other. by reading the word. Remember, the scripture says, iron sharpeneth iron. Right, so you got to be making videos, you got to be reading, you got to be writing, you got to be, if you have brothers around you, you should be talking to them. And that's true, man. You know, when you're with brothers, it always leads back to spiritual conversation. And that leads to edification. Even when you're talking about folly, it always goes into a spiritual talk or a spiritual rant. And then the scriptures come out. That's how it should be. And that's how the Lord set us up, man. Okay? So anyways, man, that's it. I hope this was edifying. Long-winded. If you stayed tuned in, congratulations. That's good. Anyways, man, with that, just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakah HaKwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone of GMS that I do learn this truth from. To you I say Shalom. This is the Son of Zion signing out. Lord willing, I'll come back with the next one. Till next time, Kwam Yashala Baba Bal Shalom.